The judge ordered me to pay $2,000 per month in spousal support, continue covering the home mortgage, pay $1,000 in child support, and maintain health insurance until our child reaches adulthood. Additionally, I'm required to cover our child's college expenses if she attends. The total monthly obligation exceeds $6,500. My name is Kurt D'Angelo, and my ex-wife, Lily, short for Lillian, has been unfaithful with several lawyers from her firm. Now, however, it feels like I'm the one being taken advantage of. My daughter, Regina, is my pride and joy, clearly a daddy's girl. Despite her desire for me to have custody, the judge ruled otherwise, leaving me frustrated with what I see as an unjust legal process. The financial demands are exorbitant considering Lily's income from her career. It's clear I'm being unfairly treated, and the judge seems complicit in this injustice. Nevertheless, I refuse to accept this lying down. I've already devised plans to make Lily regret crossing me. I can be quite vengeful when I feel wronged. Growing up in Lansing, Illinois, I learned how to handle situations like this. I'm known as an entrepreneur. I see opportunities and seize them. While my early ventures weren't always entirely legitimate, I now focus on real estate, owning several rental properties, vending machines, and a coin change business similar to Coinstar, spread across Chicagoland and northern Indiana. This business will come in handy for fulfilling my spousal support obligation of $2,000 per month, perhaps in the form of all coins. Let Lily deal with counting and rolling them with her lawyer friends. Lily stayed home with Regina until she started school, then worked part-time before pursuing a career as a paralegal. After a brief job search, she landed a position at a prominent law firm where her advancement was swift. I now wonder if her success was truly based on merit or if there were other factors at play. As her husband, I supported her career choice wholeheartedly. She'd return home tired but with a smile, and looking back now, I wonder what drained her and what those smiles meant. We lived in Oak Forest, Illinois, a comfortable suburb of Chicago. As she became more involved with young lawyers and senior partners, her attitude shifted. She began insisting, "We need to move to a better neighborhood. You earn well, and I work in a prestigious law firm. We need to show the world we've made it." I loved our home in Oak Forest, where we'd made it ours. I resisted her persistent urging for 2 years, finally agreeing only on the condition that we keep our house, our home, and rent it out alongside my other properties. So, we bought a $900,000 mansion on Chicago's north side in Wilmette, financed with a jumbo loan. It wasn't on Lake Michigan, but close enough. She furnished it to her taste, but I never felt comfortable there. Looking back, I realize it marked the beginning of the end for us. We had different visions for our lives. I preferred a low-key existence, while she wanted to flaunt our wealth. Returning to the judge's divorce decree, I vowed to comply strictly, though she wouldn't be pleased. Over the next month, I began planning. My daughter would receive her child support, but none of it would go to Lily. It would be earmarked in an account for Regina's needs, along with comprehensive health insurance for her. Lily, however, would receive only a catastrophic policy with a high deductible, covering major illnesses. When the first spousal support payment to Lily came due after 30 days, I orchestrated a memorable delivery. An armored truck pulled up to our mansion, and when Lily opened the door, she was accompanied by one of her acquaintances. Confused, she watched as the driver handed over the month's payment. Nosy neighbors gathered, perhaps thinking she'd won a sweepstakes, as bags of change were unloaded onto our Italian marble floor. The clinking sound echoed loudly, audible even from across the street where I stood, recording the scene on my phone. After the truck drove off, she spotted me and began screaming. I just waved back and shouted, "Hope you enjoy your slut money." Then I climbed into my truck and drove away. It didn't surprise me when a man approached me the following Tuesday, asking if I was Kurt D'Angelo. I stood there without acknowledging him. "Excuse me, sir. Are you Kurt D'Angelo?" he asked more forcefully. Again, I ignored him. He took out his phone, snapped a picture of me with the summons extended towards me. When I still didn't accept it, he let it drop to the ground, saying, "You've been served," before walking away. Once I was sure he was gone, I picked up the summons. I was required to appear in court the next Wednesday, giving me a week to finalize my preparations. I made the most of that week, calling people, making arrangements, and preparing for court. I also took Regina out to lunch. She was furious with her mother, appalled by her behavior. She reiterated her desire to live with me, but her mother wouldn't agree. I'll ask the judge again, I assured her. If he still refuses, I might end up in jail. Don't do anything violent, Dad. It's not worth it, she urged. Don't worry, I won't. But I will speak my mind, and that might land me in jail. Your mom would probably get a kick out of that, but don't worry about me. I can handle it. For you, though, I've set up a trust. Uncle Ken will be the trustee until you're of legal age. He'll ensure your needs are met, but your mother won't receive any of it. It's for your support, not hers. Of course, Dad. She doesn't deserve anything, Regina replied firmly. That's my girl, I thought. Strong-willed and growing into quite the young adult. Dad, I'm coming to court with you. I'm going to demand to live with you, Regina declared. I don't know if that will make a difference. Wednesday arrived, and Regina, my lawyer, and I sat in the gallery waiting for our turn before the judge. Lily entered with her lawyer, her lover, and taunted, "Hey, asshole, get with the program. You can't do whatever you want. You'll see." When the judge called my name, Regina stood and approached the podium first. "Excuse me, miss, this involves Kirk D'Angelo's case," the judge interjected. "I'm his daughter, and I want to petition the court again to have my father as the custodial parent, not that woman, my mother," Regina declared, glaring at Lily. "Young lady, you cannot speak like that in my courtroom. Custody has already been decided." "But I'm 15. I should have the right to choose," Regina insisted, interrupting the judge. "There were allegations regarding your father, and I have ruled in favor of your mother," the judge explained sternly. When I heard that, I glanced at Lily and saw a smirk on her face. My lawyer spoke up, saying, "Your Honor, we have no knowledge of any accusations, nor have any been lodged or brought before the court in any previous meetings. I am referring to a psychiatrist report that I have obtained. With that information, I am standing by my ruling, so that matter is closed." About 4 months earlier, Regina was struggling with the divorce and school issues, so we decided she should see a psychiatrist. Lily must have believed there was something in those notes that could sway the judge in her favor. I have never engaged in any inappropriate activities with my daughter. Lily was trying to falsely portray me as a pedophile. My blood pressure was rising. I couldn't believe Lily would lie like that, accusing me of something I didn't do. The judge wouldn't even let my side be heard. I stared at the judge. He would pay for this. It seemed her law firm was calling the shots. We'll see how they fare in the end. My vindictive nature was starting to resurface. Lily's lawyer then spoke up, saying, "We are petitioning the court to find Kirk D'Angelo in contempt." My lawyer was almost as heated as I was now. He could see there would be no justice in the courtroom today. "Your Honor, my client has fulfilled all the terms of the divorce decree to date. There are no grounds for contempt." "Your Honor," Lily's lawyer continued, "his monthly spousal support payment was delivered a week ago Saturday and dumped on the floor in her residence." "So," the judge queried. The $2,000 was all in change, mostly pennies and nickels. This caused some damage to the flooring and required a considerable amount of time and effort to clean up, Lily's lawyer explained. My lawyer didn't wait for the judge to respond, he was prepared. "Your Honor, Section 5103 of Title 31 of the United States Code states, United States coins and currency are legal tender for all debts, public charges, taxes, and dues. My client paid the required spousal support. Likewise, he has fulfilled the insurance, home mortgage, and child support requirements." "Your Honor," Lily's lawyer pressed on, "as of this date, my client has not received child support from Mr. D'Angelo." "That's correct, Your Honor," my lawyer clarified. "The child support has been given directly to his daughter for any wants and needs she may have. You can ask her yourself." The judge looked at Regina, who smiled and nodded in confirmation. "We have canceled checks for the insurance and the mortgage," my lawyer added. I glanced over at Lily and her lawyer. They were scrambling to come up with something. Your Honor, Lily's lawyer appealed, having the payment made in change causes undue hardship for my client. Could we ask that in the future she be given a check instead? The judge finally interjected, that seems reasonable. But before he could say more, my lawyer spoke up again. Your Honor, before you proceed, could you address a couple of questions related to that? And what would those be? The judge inquired. Are the Chicago police considered part of the legal system in the city of Chicago? My lawyer asked. The judge looked at my lawyer as if he were incredulous. Why, of course they are. Then why is it, my lawyer pressed on, that if my client were to have his car impounded and wanted to retrieve it from the Chicago police impound lot, he would not be able to write a check, but would have to pay in cash or with a credit card? The judge stuttered, caught off guard. If the police, as you've stated, are part of Chicago's legal system and they won't accept a check, how can my client be compelled to pay future spousal support by check? My lawyer challenged. The judge, looking uncomfortable, responded defensively, because this is my court and my rulings stand. At this point, fed up with the proceedings, I stood up and exclaimed, because you're the law, bending over backwards for my wife's law firm. Were you her client too? The judge erupted. Mr. D'Angelo, I find you in contempt of court and sentence you to 6 months in Cook County Jail, unless you apologize to me and this court and agree to any terms I impose. Who do you think you are, the king of this kangaroo court? I shouted back. The judge was visibly stunned. Clearly, he wasn't accustomed to such direct confrontation. Bailiff, take this man into custody, he ordered. Glancing over at Lily and her lawyer, I saw they were equally stunned. Good luck getting your money now, bitch. I smirked at Lily. She had no idea how much her life was about to change. I was escorted to holding, subjected to a strip search, and then transferred to the jail. Jail was a polite term, it was more like a prison. At 6 feet 4 inches and 255 pounds of muscle, I wasn't intimidated. Years of managing rental properties had kept me in shape, and I'd even spent time in juvie as a teenager. After processing, I was led out into the cell yard. Ignoring the noise and commotion around me, I resolved to keep to myself and stay vigilant. As long as I avoided trouble, I could blend into the background. During dinner service that evening, I picked up my tray and lined up with the others. Leaning against the wall, I observed the posturing of the inmates around me. Amidst the cacophony, a voice I hadn't heard in decades called out, Tex? Tex was a nickname from my troubled youth on the streets. Tex? Randall, also known as Ringer, exclaimed. What are you doing in here? As he approached, many eyes turned towards us. I set my tray down and pulled him into a hug, clasping our right hands together and wrapping my other arm around his shoulders. Ringer. Man, it's good to see you. How the hell have you been? Well, I'm in here, so not great. And you, obviously not too good either. What did you do? I basically called a judge an asshole. That'll do it, he chuckled. So, how long are you in for? 6 months, unless I apologize to the son of a bitch. So, 6 months it is, I guess. We talked, ate, and drew some curious looks from the other inmates. Ringer briefed me on the prison dynamics, reassuring me he'd watch my back, and I promised to do the same for him. We reminisced about old times. So, what's your plan with the ex, her lovers, and the judge? Ringer asked after I filled him in. He knew me from our wild days. Revenge had always been my style, earning me the nickname Tex. Tex, short for Texas, as in don't mess with Texas. Those who did, paid. They'd think twice before crossing me again, and they'd spread the word too. And the judge? What went down there? Ringer pressed. I told him straight up he was a piece of shit. Damn. What happened next? He took my little girl away, even though she wanted to live with me, and then he accused me of something I never did. Damn. What's your move now? I've got some plans brewing. I figured I'd end up in here, so I started plotting weeks ago. Need any help with that? Ringer offered. Maybe. I'll let you know. It's damn good to have a friend in here, though. I'll introduce you to some of my crew. It's good to have people you can trust watching your back. After introductions, Ringer shared some stories from our days running the streets of Lansing. There were a few laughs, but mostly nods of understanding, as if their experiences weren't so different. That night, lying on my bunk, I stared at the bare wall. How did it come to this? I wondered aloud, reflecting on my life. My childhood had been tough, abusive father, spineless mother, who drove me to the streets. I fell in with a rough crowd, not a gang but kids dealt a bad hand. Lansing's crime rate was high, and we didn't help. Mostly petty stuff, with the occasional stolen car. Juvie was a wake-up call. Rough, sure, but it made me rethink where my life was headed. I promised myself I'd change, make something of myself when I got out. By the time I turned 20, I had saved up enough money to buy a house that had been foreclosed on for tax reasons in the neighborhood. That was the first of many homes I purchased, renovated, and started renting out. At 22, I found myself at a club, the name of which escapes me now. It underwent so many name changes in the following decade before being demolished to make way for condos. That night, I got lucky, or so I thought at the time. I met Lily. We hit it off instantly. Her life had been a world away from mine. She had recently moved to Chicago to stay with a friend, having grown up in Seymour, Indiana, a small Midwest town best known as the birthplace of John Cougar Mellencamp. By the time Lily was born, he had already left, so they never crossed paths. Her small-town upbringing had molded a 21-year-old woman with an outlook on life that I found captivating. I suppose they say opposites attract. We married a year later, and a year after that, Regina was born, named after Lily's mother. I had bought a house in Oak Forest intending to flip it, but when Lily saw it, she fell in love and wanted to make it our permanent home. Over the next decade, we poured our hearts into renovating it exactly how we wanted. It was the best 10 years of my life, working on home projects together, witnessing our daughter grow up, hosting BBQs with our neighbors. It was the epitome of the American dream. Then Lily landed the job at the law firm, and things began to shift, particularly her attitude. The simple life no longer satisfied her. She craved expensive clothes, jewelry, and replaced neighborhood BBQs with dinners at upscale restaurants, often with colleagues from her firm. She also started making disparaging remarks about people from Chicago's South Side. I understood the South Side's reputation and reality, but her small-town roots didn't justify her sense of superiority. We argued frequently over her changing attitude. Soon after, she began relentlessly pushing to move to the North Side. 3 years ago, we relocated. The schools were better, but Regina started encountering the North Side's elitism from her classmates, which made her school life miserable. She repeatedly expressed her desire to return home. I felt the same, but Lily refused to entertain the idea. She was content where we were. The incident that triggered our divorce was typical of those times. Around 6:30 one evening, Lily called to say she was going dancing with some paralegals from her office. That night, I decided to check up on her after tracking her phone. I stood in the shadows and watched as she danced. She wasn't just dancing, she was with men from the club, being passed around as if she were available to all. They kissed, groped, and did everything but have sex right there on the dance floor. Around 9:15 p.m., I needed to use the restroom. As I stood in the stall, one guy entered and headed for the urinal. Another guy followed shortly after. "Damn, Joe, you were all over Lily on the dance floor." "I thought you were going to get it on right there," the first guy said. "Yeah, she's wild," Joe replied. "She definitely knows how to handle things," the second guy chimed in. "You bet. She told me she's leaving with me tonight. Finally, we can do something proper, not just a quickie in the office or car," Joe boasted. "Yeah, those are good for quick relief, but nothing beats a full night," the second guy agreed. "It's gonna be an all-nighter tonight," Joe affirmed. "Maybe next weekend, I'll get my turn," the second guy said as they exited the restroom. Their conversation seemed more than just boasting. I left the restroom a minute later and spotted Lily in the arms of one of the guys, kissing on the dance floor. Around 9:30 p.m., she texted me, admitting she had too much to drink and didn't feel safe taking the L train home so late. She claimed she would spend the night at Paula's, another paralegal from her office. I replied, "That's probably for the best." She texted back, "Sorry." She would be sorry. I watched as she left the club with a young lawyer from her office, arm in arm. I followed them discreetly. They were so absorbed in each other that they didn't notice me. They got into his Lexus and continued kissing and touching for a few minutes. I felt anger rising, but then my South Side determination kicked in and I focused on my plans. I followed them to his apartment building. Once they entered the parking garage, I drove straight to the mansion. When I arrived, I told Regina we were leaving and to pack everything she wanted because we wouldn't be returning. She was relieved but asked, "What about Mom?" "She has other people to take care of her now," I replied, and she understood exactly what I meant. It took us about 3 hours, but we loaded everything into the back of my truck. Fortunately, our home in Oak Forest had recently become vacant, so we had a place to go. Around 11 a.m. the next day, Saturday, my phone rang. It was Lily. "Kurt, what's going on?" "Where are you?" she asked. "Home," was all I said. It only took Lily a moment to grasp my meaning. "Why?" she asked, though she knew the answer well. "I no longer recognize you, nor do I want to," I replied. "Where's Regina?" "She's with me. She no longer wants to live with you in that house." Uncertain if I knew about her affair, Lily attempted to reason, "Come on, Kurt. Just because you don't enjoy living in luxury doesn't mean you can leave and take our daughter with you." "No, Lily. But having a wife who cheats on me is reason enough to leave. Expect the divorce papers next week." She gasped and retorted in her usual demeaning tone, "You piece of shit Southsider. You have no idea what trouble you're bringing upon yourself. My firm will crush you." "That may be true," I calmly stated, "but in the end, I will prevail. You haven't seen the extent of my determination." Over the next 6 months, she made no effort to reconcile. She would even call me to announce her outings with various lawyers. I couldn't care less. There was no turning back. However, I did have to return Regina to school. Regina informed me that Lily was out nearly every night until past midnight. She also told me Lily spoke poorly of me, saying I lacked class and that Regina should aim to marry one of the wealthy boys from her school so you can live in luxury forever. Regina always defended me and insisted she wanted to return to Oak Forest. Now, here I am in jail, and Lily probably thinks she's won. I may be in jail, but I will make use of my time productively. I wonder if she's considering how the mortgage will be paid, along with her health insurance and spousal support. Perhaps she thinks a few days in jail will bring me to my senses. No, it will only give me more time to plan and execute my revenge. On a Thursday afternoon, something occurred that would alter the lives of many people, some of whom I would never meet. Ordered by the 2 guards, I was told to come with us. They escorted me to a video conference room. "What's this about?" "If I'm speaking to the judge, I want my lawyer present," I demanded. They pushed me into the room and snapped, "Sit down. You're not talking to the judge, but you are going to receive some justice." They slammed the door shut. I began shouting for them to let me out. About 10 minutes later, I paced the room anxiously until the door creaked open and 6 fellow inmates were ushered in. I knew their intentions and was determined to prevent it. "You don't want to mess with me," I warned. "You will regret it." One of them charged at me, and I struck him squarely on the nose, hearing it crack. The others swarmed me. I fought back fiercely, throwing punches, kicks, elbows, and slamming them against the walls. Then, the largest one, towering 6 inches above me, caught me in a chokehold. I struggled relentlessly until everything went black. I woke up in the infirmary, my body covered in blood and bruises, and a searing pain in my rear. I knew what had happened. They needed to assert dominance, and this was how they did it. The morning light filtering through the window indicated I had been out all night. As a nurse approached me, I regarded her with resentment, directed at the entire system that had taken my child away, forced me to pay so my ex-wife could live in the mansion, and ultimately incarcerated me to teach me a lesson. The nurse met my gaze and said, "I'm here to help you, not to hurt you. You've been badly beaten up. They said you were in a fight, but we both know the truth. I can either help you recover, or you can lie there in pain. It makes no difference to me." Though her final words were spoken, I sensed she genuinely wanted to assist. Trying to muster a smile, I muttered, "Sorry. You've been through a traumatic experience. Your anger is understandable." She left briefly but returned with breakfast and freed one of my hands. "Thank you," I said as I began to eat. "You're welcome." Sitting there, I resolved on my course of action. "Can I ask a favor?" I inquired. "It depends," she replied cautiously. "One of the inmates, Randall Turner, is an old friend. Could you arrange for him to visit me?" "I'll see what I can do," she responded noncommittally. Fortunately, she managed to arrange for Ringer to visit me later that afternoon. When he entered, he exclaimed, "Oh shit." He understood I wasn't going to let this go. I described the 6 inmates and 2 guards responsible for my injuries. "I need their full names, not just their nicknames," I insisted. "Oh shit," he repeated. "What are you planning?" An eye for an eye, with a twist. He recognized the determination in my eyes and knew it wouldn't end well, possibly affecting innocent individuals. "I'll try to get the information," he agreed reluctantly. "What do you want me to do?" "Just that. I'll handle the rest." After further discussion, he was escorted back to his cell. Sleep was elusive that night, constrained and uncomfortable in the hospital bed. The following day, Ringer returned with the list. Once again, he asked, "What's your plan?" "The less you know, the better," I warned him. "Oh shit," he muttered. The next day, a Sunday, brought both a pleasant and an unwelcome surprise. Lily had arrived, accompanied by Regina. Lily approached me first. "So, I see you've been making friends with your fellow inmates," Lily remarked coldly. "What the hell do you want?" I growled back at her. "Regina insisted we come to visit you. Are you ready to apologize and be reasonable yet?" she questioned, her tone accusatory. "No way in hell. And what's this nonsense about me and Regina?" "You know I would never harm her," I replied angrily. "How can I be sure?" "She seems quite attached to you," Lily retorted. "You piece of trash. Why don't you go back to your friends and let them have their way with you, so you can see how full of it you are?" I snapped furiously. "Just so you know, I've already given myself to them, and they loved it," Lily gloated smugly. "Get the hell out of here and send Regina in." "I'm done talking to you," I demanded. She smirked in that insufferable way of hers, thinking she was getting under my skin. Little did she know, she was only adding fuel to the fire that would soon consume her. When they brought Regina in, she burst into tears at the sight of me lying there, bandaged and bruised. "Honey, don't cry. It looks worse than it is," I reassured her, trying to hold back my own emotions. "Oh, Daddy. I was so scared seeing you lying there like that." "You look like you were in a car accident," Gina said tearfully. "Don't worry about me, honey. I'm tougher than I look," I reassured her, though I could feel her concern weighing heavily. "Dad, I hate Mom for doing this to you. I hate her for making me live with her, and I hate her for saying those horrible things about you." "It's all total bullshit," Gina expressed with frustration. "I know, Gina," I said gently, trying to console her. "Don't call me that anymore," she declared suddenly. I looked at her, puzzled by the sudden change. "I'm Gina from now on. I don't want to be associated with Mom or any of her family. In fact, I told her that and said I wouldn't talk to her again unless I absolutely had to. I haven't either, not since Monday. She keeps trying to be nice to me, but I keep ignoring her," Gina explained firmly. "Gina," I said, using her new chosen name. "You are more like me than you know." "I couldn't be prouder about that," she said, smiling through her tears. We continued talking about lighter topics for a while. Then I asked, "Could you do something for me?" "Anything, Dad," Gina replied without hesitation. I handed her the list Ringer had given me, and she immediately slipped it into her bra. Give that to Uncle Ken and tell him to come visit me ASAP. My brother Ken, 3 years younger than me, had endured the same abusive father. I protected him as much as I could and shielded him from the worst of it. Ken had a sharp mind and developed a passion for computer games, which eventually led him into the world of computers themselves. We talked a little longer until Lily returned and said, "Regina, we have to go." Gina didn't say a word to her mother. She simply got up, hugged me tightly, and walked out with determination. "Your daughter is as stubborn as you are," Lily remarked as she left. I smiled to myself as she walked away, knowing that Gina's strength and resilience were something we both shared. On Tuesday, Ken came to visit. He was visibly taken aback by my appearance. "It looks way better than it did last Friday," I joked. "I'm glad I waited," he replied with a smile. Then he switched to our private language, a code we had created as kids to discuss our parents without them understanding. "Regina. Gina," he said, correcting himself in our language. She gave me the list. "I've done some initial research. What are you looking for?" "Addresses of wives or steady girlfriends," I replied. He paused, then switched back to English, saying, "Oh shit." In our private language, I continued, "That's all you need to do. Then give it to Gummy and ask him to visit me, but without the list." Ken nodded. He knew Gummy lived in his parents' old house in Lansing and could be trusted. "I can do that. Anything else?" he asked. "No, that will be enough. But don't be a stranger. It's good to have a familiar face around here," I said. "Aren't you getting out soon?" Ken inquired. "Not if I don't apologize, and you know me better than that," I replied firmly. "You always were the stubborn one," he chuckled. "Yeah, and it spared you from Dad's drunken wrath," I said, acknowledging our shared history. Ken smiled knowingly. "I'll stop by within the next 2 weeks, see if you need anything else." "That would be great," I said gratefully. Later that week, back in my regular cell, Ringer had spread the word that something was brewing and retaliation was imminent. The guards and the 6 others involved gave me hostile looks, silently warning me to stay in line. Little did they know, the tables were about to turn. Gummy visited me as planned. Ken gave me the details. "What's next?" "Did you hear what they did to me?" I asked pointedly. "Yeah," Ken filled me in, he confirmed. "Return the favor, but target their loved ones. No DNA, use Steely Dan or similar. And do it all on the same day, preferably at the same time. Make sure they're told to pass on the message. Don't mess with Texas," I instructed. "I'll get some friends to help," Gummy nodded before leaving. I knew Gummy would exact revenge discreetly. It would send a clear message without incriminating anyone. A week passed with no word. I was also anticipating another visit from my daughter. I dreaded seeing Lily, but I knew she would accompany Gina. On Tuesday morning, I noticed the absence of the 2 guards who normally worked that day. One of the 6 seemed distracted and upset. It must have happened yesterday, I thought to myself, sensing that repercussions were already unfolding. I instructed Ringer to spread the word among the inmates, "Don't mess with Texas." Soon, I earned the nickname Tex as inmates started calling out to me. Within a couple of days, the 6 began giving me hostile glares. The 2 guards returned to work and their stares bore into me. Thankfully, Ringer's friends had my back. When one of the 6 approached me, 8 of my allies surrounded us. He accused me, "You're a piece of shit. My girl dumped me because of you. She said she didn't want to risk getting hurt again. She even mentioned, 'Don't mess with Texas.'" I smiled calmly and replied, "Sounds like solid advice. I warned you not to provoke me. Now your women know how it feels. An eye for an eye, with a twist. The twist is, you hurt me, I hurt the ones you care about. Let them all know that next time, it'll be their mothers." His eyes widened, and he walked away to join his group. Shortly after, the 2 guards approached me aggressively. "Who the fuck do you think you are? We're going to make your time here a living hell." Well, then maybe your wife should prepare to take it up the ass. They might even start to enjoy it, I retorted. One of the guards lunged at me, landing punches. I didn't resist, allowing him to continue for a couple of minutes until another guard intervened and pulled him off. Many inmates witnessed the altercation, likely captured by the surveillance cameras. Back in the infirmary, Beth, the nurse who had helped me before, greeted me. Looks like we have a troublemaker here. I didn't throw any punches. The guard started hitting me, I explained. There'll be an investigation this time. Too many witnesses. He might lose his job over it, Beth assured me. One less asshole guard, I remarked. Those guards keep you safe, believe it or not, Beth countered. He didn't keep me safe last time. He let it happen, I replied. Beth bandaged my injuries and advised overnight observation. I wondered if she had an ulterior motive for wanting to keep an eye on me, even in my battered state. The assaulting guard was suspended pending investigation. The other guard continued to glare at me but refrained from further confrontation, perhaps heeding the message, "Don't mess with Texas." 3 weeks had passed since Gina's last visit, and I grew anxious about her absence. Finally, Ken visited and informed me that Lily was refusing to bring Gina to see me. Anger boiled within me. My ex-wife was deliberately keeping my daughter away from me. At the end of the month, Lily arrived, visibly frustrated. Gina initially refused to leave the car despite Lily's attempts to persuade her. Inside, Lily launched into her grievances. Your daughter is impossible. She hardly talks to me. She's just as stubborn as you. You said that last time you were here. Why don't you get the judge to reconsider and give me custody of her? I'd gladly take her off your hands, I retorted. You're not getting her. She needs to attend a good school to secure her future, Lily insisted. Oak Forest is a good school, and she enjoyed it there, I countered. It's nothing compared to Wilmette. She's receiving an excellent education and making connections that will benefit her, she argued. Our daughter will forge her own path in life. She doesn't need to rely on anyone else, I asserted. You're too stubborn to see the benefits, Lily snapped. We've had this argument countless times. You won't change my mind, and I won't change yours. Why did you really come here? I know it wasn't just to bring Regina to see me, I questioned. Her name is Regina, not Gina. Lily corrected. That's what she wants to be called. Don't you want her to be independent? I challenged. You mean stubborn, Lily muttered. No, I mean independent. To think for herself, decide what's right for her, not be influenced by money, power, or other people, I stated pointedly. She sneered, recognizing the implication of my words. Anyway, she continued, I need my spousal support payment. I have expenses to cover and bills to pay. Well, you'll have to manage those on your own salary. I can't receive payments from my S-Corp while I'm in jail, nor should I. No work means no pay. That's how it works in the real world, I explained. But I can't afford all the bills on my salary, she protested. You should have considered that before dragging me back to court, I replied firmly. You were being difficult, paying with change, she accused. Now you'll get no payment because I'm incarcerated, I said matter-of-factly. You have to, she insisted. No, I don't. What are they going to do, throw me in jail? Oh, I'm already here. It wouldn't be wise for them to take me out just to put me back in, I retorted. What about the bills, she whined. Get one of your lawyer friends to handle it. I'm sure they're worth their fees, I replied dryly. She stormed out in frustration. Gina entered the room, noting, wow, you really got her worked up. She expects me to keep paying her spousal support while I'm sitting in jail. Good luck with that, I remarked, relieved to see Gina. How are you holding up, Dad? Gina asked as she entered the visiting room. Don't worry about me, I'll be fine. How are you doing? I hear you're still not talking to your mom, I replied. Not much, only when I have to, she said. So, when are you getting out of here? Honey, I refuse to apologize to that asshole judge. The only way I'd apologize is if he gave you back to me. I don't see that happening anytime soon. I might not get out until my 6 months are up, I explained. I understand, she said sadly. You know my birthday is coming up next month. I'd love for you to be out so we could celebrate, but I wouldn't want you to go against your principles. We can celebrate when you get out. Her words weighed heavily on me. I started reconsidering my stance. Being here was hurting my little girl. Then Gina quoted something that made me rethink everything. If a person doesn't have principles, he has nothing. Like Abraham Lincoln said, important principles may, and must be, inflexible, she recited. Where did you hear that? I asked, intrigued. My counselor Dr. Hodges, at school. It's been great having someone to talk to about all of this. Some of my teachers noticed my grades slipping and had the counselor come talk to me. It's also helped me deal with Mom, even though I'm still not talking to her. It made sense that a prestigious school like Wilmette had a doctor of psychology as their student counselor. Those wealthy kids couldn't just talk to any ordinary counselor. I said to Gina, your mom seems to be mad at you too. Yeah, she's getting quite irritated with me. I just ignore her. I think that makes it worse, but I don't care, she replied. Well, in a couple more months, she'll have to start looking for somewhere else to live. The bank won't let a jumbo loan go unpaid for long. I figure within 3 months, her mansion will be foreclosed on, I explained. But Dad, if the house gets foreclosed on, won't that wreck your credit? Gina asked, concerned. Honey, when you usually buy things with cash, you don't worry about credit. That stupid mansion was the only thing I ever took a loan out for, I admitted. Really? Wow, Dad, even with all your rentals and other businesses? You never took out a loan? She asked, impressed. I used cash from the other ones to buy new ones, I explained. Dad, I've always respected you, but now I respect you even more, she said, smiling warmly. Thanks, honey. You really know how to lift my spirits, I replied gratefully. It was a wonderful visit with my daughter, but it also made me ache to be with her more regularly. Missing her birthday would be tough on both of us, but I knew she was strong and would be okay. The following week, I heard through the grapevine that the guard who had struck me was fired. It was hard to argue against the video of me not even defending myself. Within a few days, the other guard was gone too. I wasn't sure if he was transferred or dismissed, but at least he was no longer here. Many inmates thanked me for getting rid of the corrupt guards. I felt I had gained some respect. From then on, even more people started calling me Tex, and I faced less trouble. The 6 were still seething with anger toward me. I heard that one of their wives had filed for divorce, and 3 others had been dumped by their girlfriends. Maybe, just maybe, even fools can learn. With the threat of more retaliation looming and my reputation among the inmates improving, they knew better than to provoke me. A couple of weeks later, I received a summons to go to the video room for a meeting with the judge. When the guard came to fetch me, I insisted, I'm not meeting with anyone without my lawyer. But the judge is waiting now, he protested. I don't care. I want my lawyer. Let him reschedule, my calendar is wide open, I asserted firmly. The guard hesitated but eventually left. 3 days later, I was informed that the meeting was rescheduled for the next week. I requested that my lawyer and I have half an hour beforehand to confer. The arrangements were made, and my lawyer and I discussed what to expect. My lawyer expressed surprise that he hadn't been given any information about the meeting, which struck us both as odd. We decided to play it by ear. When the judge appeared on the video screen, his displeasure at being delayed for a week was palpable. I remained unmoved. In my eyes, he was nothing more than a self-important bureaucrat, convinced of his superiority simply because he held a judicial position. Almost immediately, my lawyer began, Your Honor, may I ask what this meeting pertains to? We received no prior information, we were simply told to be here. Your client did not need to involve you, the judge retorted. I merely wished to see if he was willing to apologize to the court for his outburst. I motioned to my lawyer, who leaned in as I whispered in his ear. Your Honor, my lawyer addressed the judge. My client is not willing to apologize and requests that you apologize to him. Furthermore, he asks for primary custody of his child. The judge's expression betrayed his disbelief. How could I have the audacity to ask for an apology? Certainly, he wouldn't entertain such a request. My judgment regarding the child stands, and I have no reason to apologize, the judge declared firmly. In that case, this meeting has been a waste of everyone's time. If my client decides to reconsider in the future, we will request another audience at that time. Good day, sir, my lawyer concluded. One more matter, the judge interjected sharply. Now, I thought, we would finally uncover the real purpose of this meeting. Your client is not complying with the divorce judgment. When does he intend to make the necessary spousal support and mortgage payments? The judge demanded. Once again, I leaned over to my lawyer and whispered my response. Your Honor, my client has no plans to make any payments while he is incarcerated, my lawyer relayed. But his house is facing foreclosure, the judge pointed out. Not my home. Perhaps my wife's mansion, but it's not my home. I never wanted it, I stated directly to the judge. The judge's expression hardened as he absorbed my words. The meeting ended there, leaving unresolved tensions in the air. This will ruin your credit, and you'll lose all your equity, he warned. A small price to pay to see my loving ex-wife street walking where she belongs, I retorted with a smirk. Then, knowing it would hit a nerve, I added, perhaps all her fuck buddies can make the payments. I'm sure between the dozen of you, you can come up with the money. You know good piece of shit Southside scum. Who do you think you're talking to? He seethed. Before he could continue, I interjected, I think I'm talking to someone who has partaken of my wife's body. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I just can't understand why someone with no skin in the game cares so much. I got up and walked to the door to be let out. I heard the judge say, Counselor, your client just earned himself 2 additional months in jail. If he continues to disrespect me, I will make his life a living hell. I smiled knowingly as I awaited the guard who would take me back to my cell. He looked dumbstruck, clearly shocked by what he had just witnessed. Back in my cell, I was buzzing with adrenaline. It seemed my wife had mentioned something about the mortgage to her associates, and they had apparently spoken to the judge. What a tangled mess. The time was coming soon. The following Sunday, Lily couldn't resist visiting me in jail. Fortunately, Gina caught wind of it and insisted on coming along. So, I hear you pissed off the judge again and got another 2 months in jail. When are you going to learn? You can't fight the system, Lily taunted. Lily, why don't you just stop talking to me altogether? All you do is flaunt your Northside attitude. I don't need it. All I need is for you to make sure Gina gets to visit me regularly, I shot back. It's Regina, she practically yelled. I turned away from her and refused to engage further. She kept complaining until she finally stormed out, leaving Gina to enter the room. Gina came in with a broad smile on her face. I asked her why she was so happy. Because I get to see my dad, she exclaimed. That can't be the only reason, I prodded. Well, I do have a surprise for you, but I can't tell you what it is yet. I need to work out the details first. Dad, do you trust me? She asked earnestly. With my life, I replied without hesitation. Then will you sign this paper without reading it first? She asked, holding up a folded piece of paper. I regarded her warily. What are you up to? You'll have to wait and see. I thought you trusted me, she replied with a playful smile. I chuckled and signed the paper she held out, noticing she had folded it strategically so only the signature line was visible. Mom told me you did something to get your jail time extended by 2 more months. Is that true? Gina asked, her concern evident. Yeah, I messed up again, honey. Had another confrontation with the judge, I admitted regretfully. Well, whatever you did, he probably deserved it. Gina remarked with a hint of defiance. We continued chatting about her school and her thoughts on her mother's behavior. Gina kept mentioning Dr. Alex Hodges and how he seemed to be making a difference in her life. I tried to pry out of her what surprise she had planned that required my signature, but she insisted on keeping it under wraps. Well, I'm sorry I won't be there for your sweet 16, but I promise to have a birthday present ready for you when you visit next, I assured her. What is it? She asked eagerly. That's a surprise. Looks like we both have surprises waiting, I teased. As our visit came to an end, I asked Gina to arrange for Greg to visit me. Greg was my trusted associate who handled all my business affairs. Sure, Dad, she agreed. I had given Greg specific tasks to handle in anticipation of my incarceration. Hopefully, he had been successful. Now, I had another task for him, Gina's birthday surprise. Later that week, Greg visited me and reported that he had managed to accomplish much of what I had asked. Then I briefed him on Gina's birthday surprise. Are you sure about this? Greg asked cautiously. Yes, it's the perfect gift for her, I affirmed. Okay, I'll speak to our lawyer about it, he agreed. Also, visit my brother Ken. Give him the details. He'll know what to do. If he needs clarification, have him come see me. If not, tell him to coordinate with Gummy, I instructed. Got it, Greg nodded before leaving. I smiled to myself, knowing Gummy would execute my plan with precision while I sat blamelessly in jail. By the end of the month, my standing among the inmates had risen. Word had spread about how I had handled the judge, thanks in part to that guard. Like any organization, rumors flew fast in prison. Soon, everyone was calling me Tex. Around the same time, I received an unexpected visitor. Walking into the room, I saw Lily sitting there. My initial impulse was to turn and leave, but she spoke up. Kurt, please stop. I need to talk to you. I have nothing to say to you, Lily. I retorted, bracing myself for whatever she had to say. We're going to lose our house. You have to give me some money to stop the foreclosure, Lily pleaded desperately. That's your house, Lily. I never wanted it, but you badgered me until I gave in. The house means nothing to me, and in this market downturn, we have no equity left. Let the bank take it, I replied firmly. Kurt, you can't do that. You have to help me, she insisted, her voice tinged with desperation. Go ask your friends for help. I'm sure they've got enough money. Then you can truly be the person you are. I shot back, my frustration boiling over. Tears welled up in her eyes. Why are you doing this to me? She cried out, hurt and confusion evident in her voice. Why did you lie and tell the judge that I was molesting our daughter? She didn't know what to say. She knew she had done me wrong. She broke down crying and I walked out. It felt good to get that all off my chest. As I was being escorted back to my cell, the guard got a call and was told to bring me back. As I walked in, expecting to see Lily sitting there crying and wanting to beg me again to help her, I was surprised to see Gina. Gina, your mom didn't tell me she brought you. I wouldn't let her come without me. She said. I'm sorry I missed your birthday. I said. But I do have a present for you, nonetheless. Dad, I knew you would miss it, and I don't care. I still love you. Also, you don't have to give me a present. She said. What a wonderful daughter I have, I thought to myself, overwhelmed with pride. Well, I don't have it with me, actually, that would be impossible, but I can tell you what it is. Gina, the Oak Forest home is yours. It is being put in a trust for you, for when you become an adult. Once I get out of here, can I stay there? Of course, I'll pay you rent, I explained. Her eyes widened, and a huge smile spread across her face. Dad, oh my God, you've just eliminated a huge hurdle that was holding up your surprise. I still can't tell you, but when I do, you'll understand. I love you so much. I love you too, honey, I replied, deeply touched by her joy and anticipation. I couldn't help but wonder about the surprise she was planning. It seemed connected to our home, the Oak Forest house, not the extravagant mansion, our true home. We continued our conversation with smiles all around. Gina mentioned Alex, her counselor, again. I wondered if she had a crush on him. I hoped he was a professional with no ulterior motives toward her. Meeting Alex was something I looked forward to once I was out of here. As I returned to my cell, a wide smile adorned my face. It wasn't just the satisfaction of standing up to Lily, but also the heartwarming talk with Gina. The other inmates probably wondered what I had done now. By now, they knew that a smile from me meant someone, somewhere, was hurting. One day, Gummy paid me a visit. Everything was set in motion. There were videos of my wife, other paralegals from her firm, some of them married, along with prostitutes, all engaging in activities with most of the lawyers in the firm and a certain judge I knew all too well. They boasted about being above the law and untouchable. It's remarkable how people overlook the hired help. Cleaning staff can come and go unnoticed. To someone doing menial labor like cleaning offices after hours, money talks. Offering free rent for a year talks even louder. We had strategically placed hidden cameras in the conference rooms and offices. I knew these recordings would yield enough damning evidence to disrupt lives. Anonymously, my brother would upload the videos online with the tagline, "Don't mess with Texas." They would be sent to key sites and distributed to news outlets and tabloids statewide. Each media outlet would compete in a frenzy to exploit the scandal for headlines. Politicians and lawyers would scramble for damage control. I smiled at Gummy and said, "In a week, let everyone know what needs to happen next." "I will," he replied. Walking back to my cell, I couldn't wipe the smile off my face. Ringer saw it and understood I'd just spoken with Gummy. "Oh shit," he muttered. I nodded, smiling even wider. When the videos finally hit, I was lying on my bunk and heard the buzz spreading through the jail. Somehow, word had reached our little corner of hell. I overheard voices saying, "Don't mess with Texas." A few minutes later, the big guy from the 6 stopped by my cell. "You're one bad motherfucker. I'm sorry for what I did to you. I warned you all not to mess with me, that you'd regret it. Now more people are regretting crossing me. I repay kindness with kindness and violence with violence. Well, I hope you accept my apology. Sure, just remember, being big doesn't mean you can't get hurt." He nodded and left. About 3 days later, I was summoned again by the judge. He had already called my lawyer, who was on his way. We sat in the video room, waiting for the judge to connect. "I wonder what this is about," my lawyer mused. "Only time will tell," I replied with a grin. "Oh shit," my lawyer muttered nervously. When the judge finally appeared on the screen, he glared at me with fury. "You did this," he bellowed. "What are you talking about?" I responded calmly. "Your text, right?" he continued to yell. "Some people call me that," I said evenly. "You'll pay for this," he yelled again, his anger palpable. "I've been in jail for the last 4 months. How could I have done anything?" I stated matter-of-factly. "You have friends," the judge retorted. "We all have friends, Your Honor," I replied sarcastically. "You won't get away with this," he spat. "I don't know, Judge, you may be out of a job soon, and I hear your wife is divorcing you." "You'd better call off your dogs," he demanded. "Now you're calling my friends dogs? I'm not sure they'd appreciate that. You know, if you corner a dog, you're liable to get bit." "Are you threatening me?" he asked. "No, just stating an old adage," I said calmly. "I'm going to make your life hell. When you ever do get out of that slime pit of a jail, you had better watch your back. One day you're going to find yourself having to answer to people that couldn't care less about your life. And I will be happy with whatever they do to you." With that, he cut the transmission. I turned to my lawyer. "Did you get that?" "Sure did," he said, holding up his phone. "More fuel for the fire. The Bar Association will be interested to hear that. It seems that intimidation is a felony in Illinois." A few days later, I had another visitor. It was my wife again. "Oh, it's you. I thought I made it plain to you that I no longer had anything to say to you." "You bastard!" she yelled. "What are you talking about?" I asked calmly. "You got me fired. My picture is all over the news and the internet. How could you do this to me? She whined. You did it to yourself, I said bluntly. Do you hate me that much? Yes, and all your fuck buddy lawyers that think they're better than everyone else, I spat back. When we first met, you were a nice, small-town girl with a great personality. Now you're just an uptown bitch with no love for anyone but yourself. What am I going to do? I have no job, and right now, no one will hire me. Move back to Seymour and live with your folks, I suggested. I can't. The local paper's headline was, Local Girl at the Heart of Chicago Scandal. My parents are taking early retirement and moving to Florida to avoid all the talk. Florida seems to be a good place for you. You'll be that much farther away from me. They won't have me. They hardly want to talk to me. Wow, your parents hardly want to talk to you, and your daughter hardly talks to you. Maybe it's you? I said pointedly. I guess you should move and start over somewhere. You'd better not take Gina with you, though. As soon as I'm out of here, I'm going back to petition the court for primary custody. I've got to believe, with your reputation, they will reconsider you as the best moral example for an impressionable young woman. You can't do that, she said. She's all I've got left. Lily, I don't give a damn. You did this to yourself. We had a good life, and then you had to go messing around. Hey, here's a thought. Maybe you can become a mistress for one of your lawyer buddies. I'm sure there's a market for a nearly 40-year-old piece of ass. She looked at me, pain evident in her eyes. She rested her forehead on the table and just cried. Sucks to be you, I remarked. Then I asked, did you bring Gina? She practically blew her top. She snapped back, it's Regina. And no, she's off doing something with that doctor friend of hers. Well then, I've got nothing more to say to you. Don't bother coming back unless you bring Regina, I retorted. I turned and walked away as she simmered. This time, I didn't feel any satisfaction. I actually felt sorry for her. She seemed broken. The next day, I caught a news report. Apparently, a fire had broken out on the top floor of a 5-story office building downtown. While the lower floors were spared by the sprinklers, the top floor was gutted. I couldn't help but smile. Ken visited me the following day and informed me that the law firm's offsite server had crashed, resulting in the loss of all their data. Again, I couldn't help but smile. A couple of weeks later, I had another visitor. It was Gina. She must have persuaded her mother to bring her. She walked in beaming. Gina. I called out. You look incredibly happy. What's going on? I've finally completed my surprise for you. You'll never guess what it is. Well, from our last conversation, I know it has something to do with the Oak Forest house. Don't tell me you and your mom moved back there. I know she'd rather live anywhere but there. You're half right, she teased. I looked at her curiously. Mom's being evicted from the Wilmette house, and I'm moving into the Oak Forest house. How is that possible? The court gave her primary custody until you're an adult, I questioned. That's the surprise. I've legally emancipated myself. That's what Alex and I have been working on for the past 2 months. Once you put the house in trust for me, it was a done deal. I needed a safe place to stay, and our old neighborhood is perfect. So let me get this straight. You're legally an adult now? Yes, when I started having issues at school, mainly due to home problems, Dr. Hodges helped me resolve them. Once you're out of here, you can move back home. I can't wait to return to high school in Oak Forest. I've already caught up with many old friends. They're all eager for summer to end and school to start. Mom did mention you spending time with your counselor. I'd like to meet this Alex, I said cautiously, still wary of an older man paying so much attention to my daughter. Well, you're in luck. Alex brought me here today. Now I was genuinely concerned. He's driving her around Chicago? I'll be right back, Gina said, heading towards the door. I needed to handle this delicately. How could I let Alex know he was treading on thin ice with his intentions toward my daughter without upsetting her or him? I wanted to put the fear of God into him, but not at the expense of Gina's feelings. When Gina returned through the door, she wasn't alone. Following her was a stunning woman with raven hair. She greeted me with a smile that seemed to say, "How have you been?" Taking a closer look at her, I ventured, "Freddie?" She replied, "I haven't heard that name in about 20 years. Freddie, or more formally Alexandria Frederico, was from my old neighborhood. While we weren't part of the same crowd, we did go to school together." Confused, Gina asked, "Dad, how do you know Dr. Hodges?" Freddie, now going by Alex, answered before I could, "We grew up in the same neighborhood. He wasn't exactly friendly with me back then." Turning to Gina, I explained, "She was a couple of years behind me in school, and we didn't really hang out together." "You were quite the troublemaker back then," Freddie added with a smile. "It seems not much has changed, pushing 40 and in jail." I felt my face flush. "I still speak my mind when necessary." "That sounds like Tex," Freddie remarked. "I heard rumors that you might be behind the law firm scandal too." "I plead the fifth," I quipped. "Before we continue, I wanted to mention that I hope you don't mind that I've been spending time with Regina," Alex said. "It's Gina," Regina corrected sharply. "Oops, sorry," Alex apologized. Then she turned to me again, saying, "About 9 months ago, when I first started talking to Gina, she was going through a tough time. I wondered if she might be related to you and Ken, since D'Angelo isn't a common name. When I checked her records and saw her father's name was Kurt, I had a feeling it was you, especially after she mentioned you were in jail." "I was pretty wild back then," I admitted. "You must have turned things around to afford a place in Wilmette," she observed. "It's just a house." "It never felt like home," I replied. Then Gina chimed in, "Yeah, our real home is in Oak Forest. South Side, but in a much better neighborhood than where we grew up," Alex added. "Yeah, if only we had stayed there, maybe we wouldn't be where we are today," I said somberly. It struck me as true. If Lily had been content with our loving home, we might still be happily married. We continued talking for a while, and then I pulled Freddie aside. "I really appreciate you taking time away from your family to help her out. Thank you also for helping her become emancipated. That's going to change everything." "It's no problem, Texas. She's like family to me now. I've grown quite attached to her." "Well, thank you again. When you get out of here, you can take us all out for dinner somewhere," Freddie suggested. "I'll do that, if I ever get out of here." The next 2 weeks passed without any new developments, just a monotonous routine of jail life. Gina and Freddie did visit on both Sundays, which I appreciated deeply. I was grateful for Freddie's mentorship with Gina. Gina mentioned that Alex helped her decorate the house, buying new furniture and decor. When I asked where the money came from, Gina said, "From Uncle Ken, of course. I have money set aside for my needs, right?" "Yes, I just wanted to make sure Freddie wasn't footing the bill. She's been incredibly helpful, but no, she hasn't paid for anything. I hope it's not all girly stuff. I want to feel at home there." "Don't worry, your man cave is intact," Gina assured me, referring to the basement I had set up as my refuge. Living in a house with 2 females can be overwhelming. Having a retreat is essential. After they left, I lay there contemplating how fast my daughter was growing up. Now legally an adult, soon she would be off to college, and who knew where life would take her next. I hoped to meet someone who appreciated life's simpler pleasures. Then, on Monday, Lily showed up again. When I saw her, I almost turned and walked out. "Kurt, wait, we need to talk," she pleaded. I turned back reluctantly. "What now?" I thought. "Do you know what our daughter did?" "What are you talking about, Lily?" I asked. "She went and had herself emancipated. She doesn't have to live with either of us anymore. She's already moved out, and I don't know where she's gone." "Oh, that," I replied. "So, you knew? Did you put her up to this?" she accused. "No, she did it herself, with help from her school counselor." "So where is she staying, with the counselor?" "No, she's moved back home." Back to the South Side? What about school? She asked. She'll be attending Oak Forest in the fall, I explained. She hated that Wilmette school, Lily. She was constantly belittled for being from the projects, as they called it. She never fit in with the upper crust. You took her away from a school she loved, where she had good friends, and put her in a situation that damaged her self-esteem and made her feel inferior. Moving her there did more harm than good. I was just trying to ensure she got a good education, Lily proclaimed. Kids learn more from their parents' example than they do in a classroom. We were her primary teachers for the challenges she'll face in life. What do you think your example is going to teach her? I hope it teaches her what not to do. Our role as parents is to raise law-abiding, responsible adults. I hope we've achieved that, and I hope she can overlook our shortcomings, especially our marriage. It wasn't all bad, Lily said. No, but it certainly ended up that way. Lily, I hope you find what you're looking for. Obviously, I didn't have it. She looked at me, and I could see the sorrow and regret in her eyes. I got up from the table and walked out, once again feeling pity for her. Finally, the day arrived for my release. I was summoned to an actual court session this time, with Gina, Freddie, and Lily all present. As I sat waiting for the judge, I wondered what he would have to say this time. I was still not inclined to apologize. The bailiff called for all rise, and we stood as the judge entered. It wasn't the same judge. Perhaps he did lose his job. The judge reviewed all the facts presented regarding my situation and then looked at me. So, Mr. D'Angelo, what do you have to say for yourself? I hesitated briefly and replied, I guess I have to say that I have fulfilled my initial 6 months plus an additional 2. At any time, you could have apologized and been set free, the judge remarked. I didn't feel the other judge deserved my apology, so I fulfilled his sentence, I stated. You are a stubborn man, Mr. D'Angelo. I prefer to call it strong-willed, and it has helped me succeed in business and in life, I replied. In regards to your divorce settlement, that still stands, and you will need to pay restitution for the months that you did not fulfill them, the judge declared. At that point, my lawyer interjected, Your Honor, my client will gladly pay what he owes. By our calculations, that amounts to just under $20,000. He is prepared to pay the full $20,000 today with the understanding that he has fulfilled his financial obligations and will not owe any further payments. Upon hearing this, Lily stood up and exclaimed, What? You owe me more than that, and you need to continue paying until Regina turns 18. Miss, the judge intervened sharply, I will handle all transactions in my courtroom. Now, counselor, how did you arrive at that figure? Your Honor, my client paid the first installment of spousal support, mortgage, and insurance, and he continued providing support for his daughter throughout his incarceration. He was unable to pay his ex-wife's spousal support or the mortgage because he was not employed and therefore not earning a salary. Now that he is able to work again, he can begin earning income. The judge reviewed the figures and then remarked, Your client was incarcerated for 8 months. Just the spousal support alone would amount to $16,000, not to mention the mortgage payments. Your Honor, if you review the court judgment transcript, it clearly states until the minor child has become a legal adult. The child in question has been emancipated for the last 3 months, as the legal documentation before you confirms, and the house was foreclosed upon 3 months ago as well. Therefore, no payments could be made on a loan that no longer existed. We have provided the breakdown showing the amount owed as $19,782. He is prepared to pay her a full $20,000 and consider his financial obligations terminated in every way. The judge scrutinized the transcript and our figures. He couldn't ignore what was plainly stated in black and white before him. I will need to conduct further research on this matter, but if the information you've presented is accurate, then I will accept this figure. Turning to both Lily and me, he continued, You have a child together. Yes, she is legally an adult in the eyes of the court, but she still faces teenage challenges and needs your support. It is essential for both of you to maintain civility towards each other so she can continue to mature in a healthy environment. Mr. D'Angelo, can I have your assurance on that? Yes, Your Honor, I affirmed. Mrs. D'Angelo, he queried. Yes, Your Honor, Lily replied. And Regina? He addressed Gina in the gallery. It's Gina, but yes, Your Honor, she clarified. Then, unless these figures prove to be inaccurate, I will consider this case closed, and Mr. D'Angelo, you are free to go. Thank you, Your Honor, my lawyer responded. As we began to leave, Gina rushed up to me and embraced me warmly. Freddie stood nearby with a smile. I noticed Lily glaring at us during our interaction. Moments later, Lily approached me angrily, exclaiming, $20,000? That's all? This is bullshit. Why? You chose your new partners over me. They can assist you in getting back on your feet. You son of a bitch, you can't do this to me. Lily, the judge asked us to be civil. Let's do this, for Gina. It's Regina. Lily snapped. Our daughter, okay? What am I supposed to do? I have no job, no place to live, nothing. You can find another job, and as for housing, I can help with that. I have a rental property where you can stay rent-free for 6 months. This will give you time to focus on rebuilding your life. You want me to move back to the South Side? She complained. It's rent-free. How can that be a bad thing? Ugh. She sighed in frustration. I then turned to Gina and Freddie. Ladies, are you ready to go? Sure, they both replied. Freddie, I owe you a nice dinner, I said. I seem to recall something about that, she chuckled. Let's head to RPM Italian. I made a reservation as soon as I got confirmation of my release date. I could really use some good food to cleanse my palate after all that jail grub, I suggested. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Lily. I could tell she was furious. RPM Italian was our restaurant where we used to go for special occasions. The reservation is for 6:30, so we have a bit of time. Would you mind if we took a drive around? I just need to get used to being free, I said. Turning to Freddie, I added, I made the reservation for 4. Could you check if your husband is available? Freddie fell silent, her expression becoming unreadable. Then Gina spoke up, Dad, she doesn't have a husband anymore. Dr. Hodges, I'm sorry, I never told him. Confused, I noticed Freddie still wore a wedding ring set. I didn't realize. I'm sorry if I assumed incorrectly, I apologized. No need to apologize. My husband was killed on the Eisenhower about 5 years ago. A big rig changed lanes and drove him into the divider. They said he died instantly, Freddie explained softly. I am so sorry, Freddie. I had no idea, I replied sympathetically. Yeah, I just haven't been able to take the rings off. It feels like I'd be letting him go if I did. I know, psychologist with her own issues. I've heard it before. Well, I'm truly sorry. Will you still join us so I can make it up to you? I asked gently. Freddie looked somber but nodded. I think that will be okay. Reflecting on my self-absorption during my troubles, I realized I had neglected to ask Freddie about her own life. I resolved to change that starting tonight. I wanted to be a better friend and listener. The dinner at RPM Italian was excellent. It felt liberating to be in normal clothes and not constantly watching my back. Yet, the newfound freedom also felt a bit unfamiliar after 8 months of confinement. By the end of the meal, I felt more at peace with everything. Taking a chance, I turned to Freddie and said, Alexandria, whenever you're ready, would you let me take you out on a real date? I'm in no rush, whenever you feel comfortable. In the meantime, can we stay in touch? Dad, of course we'll stay in touch. You're not getting rid of me that easily, Gina interjected with a smile. I wouldn't have it any other way, Freddie agreed. Then she added, Mike and I never had children. Between my schooling and his financial planning business, it never felt like the right time. Having Gina in my life has been incredibly therapeutic. I hope that's okay with you. After everything you've done for both of us, I wouldn't have it any other way, I assured her. Leaving the restaurant, Gina remarked, I hope you like the changes we made to our old house. Anything is better than where I've been for the last 8 months, I chuckled. Arriving at the house, I was pleasantly surprised. The shutters were freshly painted, the bushes neatly trimmed. It looked inviting from the outside, and stepping inside, it felt different yet familiar, a true home. I could sense Freddie's influence in every corner. Cheesy as it may sound, tears welled up in my eyes. Even a hardened criminal like me couldn't hold them back. Kurt? Freddie's voice interrupted my thoughts. I wiped my eyes and replied, I feel like I'm finally home. Kurt, Alex said gently. I turned towards her, puzzled. She looked directly at me and said, I think I'm ready. I watched as she removed her wedding rings and smiled at me. Unable to resist, I smiled back, and then we embraced. Epilogue. The events surrounding my divorce and its aftermath left a trail of ruined careers and marriages for 10 lawyers, 4 paralegals, 6 politicians, and a judge. Whether seen as stubborn or strong-willed, standing by one's principles can sometimes have its own rewards. On a positive note, Gina gained not only a new mother but also a younger brother and sister, born about 18 years after her. The boy was named Frederick, and the girl Alexis, both named in honor of the person who helped me rebuild my life. As for Lily, she eventually married a wealthy lawyer, seemingly achieving the status she desired. While I believed we had everything, a loving family, a good home, a healthy child, and financial stability, she saw things differently, craving social status above all. Now, she resides in a grand house in Winnetka, but with a husband who is a misogynistic philanderer, using her for appearances of a stable home life. I hope she finds happiness. As for me, I can confidently say that I am happy. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Write your opinion in the comments.